I can't walk past a bakery these days without seeing artisan sourdough plastered across the window. And my patients constantly ask me, Dr. Armstrong, is sourdough actually healthier? Or is this just another food trend? Well, I've been digging into the research, and the answer might surprise you. It's more nuanced than the Instagram wellness crowd might have you believe. And here's the kicker: most of what is sold as sourdough probably isn't real sourdough at all. Let me share what a comprehensive systematic review from Advances in Nutrition actually found. These researchers analyzed 25 clinical trials involving over 500 people, looking at everything from blood sugar control to digestive comfort. And here's the thing that struck me as a clinician. The results were mixed. About half the studies showed that sourdough bread produced lower blood sugar spikes compared to regular bread. The other half, no significant difference. But here's what many of those studies revealed, and this is crucial. Nearly 50% didn't even properly characterize what sourdough they were using. Some were genuine long-fermented sourdough, others questionable at best. And that brings me to something important you need to know. In most countries, including the US, UK, Canada, and Australia, there is no legal definition of sourdough. A bakery can add some vinegar or lactic acid to regular yeast bread and call it sourdough and charge you double. It happens all the time. Real sourdough requires 8 to 24 hours of fermentation with wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria. Many supermarket sourdoughs are made in 2 to 3 hours with commercial yeast and artificial souring agents. You get the tangy flavor, but none of the health benefits. So how do you spot real sourdough? Ask your baker, how long is your fermentation time? If they cannot answer or say anything less than 8 hours, walk away. Check the ingredients. It should be flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter. If you see enriched flour, dough conditioners, vinegar, or preservatives, that is fake sourdough. Now, let's talk about what real sourdough can actually do for you. First, mineral absorption. During that genuine long-term fermentation process, lactic acid bacteria break down something called phytic acid. Think of phytic acid as a mineral kidnapper. It binds to iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium, making them unavailable to your body. Real sourdough fermentation destroys 60 to 90% of this phytic acid. That's not trivial, especially if you're eating whole grain breads regularly. You're actually absorbing significantly more of these essential minerals. But the 2-hour fake sourdough, that doesn't have time to accomplish this. Second, the glycemic index. When genuine sourdough does lower blood sugar response, and it doesn't always, it's through several mechanisms. The organic acids produced during fermentation, mainly lactic acid and acetic acid, slow down gastric emptying. Your stomach doesn't dump everything into your intestines as quickly. The acid also interferes with amylase, the enzyme that breaks down starch, so glucose is released more gradually. Plus, the fermentation creates more resistant starch, basically starch that acts more like fiber than a rapidly absorbed carbohydrate. The glycemic index of real sourdough white bread typically ranges from 53 to 66, compared to 70 to 100 for regular white bread. That's potentially meaningful, especially for people managing blood sugar. But again, this requires genuine fermentation. Third, and this is where my IBS patients perk up, FODMAPs. FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates that can trigger digestive symptoms. The specific bacterial strains used in some sourdough starters can dramatically reduce fructans, one of the main FODMAPs in wheat. One Finnish study showed that low FODMAP sourdough rye bread improved abdominal symptoms in people with irritable bowel syndrome, but, and this is crucial, they used specifically selected lactobacillus strains and proper fermentation. You cannot achieve this with quick rise fake sourdough. Now, here's my clinical perspective after decades in medicine. The research makes it abundantly clear that not all sourdough is created equal. The type of flour, white versus whole grain, matters enormously. So too does the specific bacterial strain and the fermentation time and the temperature. France and Germany actually have legal standards for what can be called sourdough. The rest of us, we're on our own. That's why you need to be an informed consumer. So, is sourdough healthier? My answer: real sourdough can be, particularly if you're choosing whole grain sourdough from a baker using traditional long fermentation methods. You'll definitely get better mineral absorption and you might get improved blood sugar control and digestive comfort. But the mass produced supermarket loaf with sourdough on the label? Probably just expensive regular bread with added flavor. Here's your action step: find a real bakery, ask questions, check ingredients, expect to pay more. Genuine sourdough costs 2 to 3 times more than regular bread for good reason. Or better yet, learn to make your own. It's the only way to guarantee authenticity. Subscribe to MedHeads for more evidence-based health insights that cut through the marketing nonsense. I'm Dr. Fergal Armstrong.